We'll be going till midnight. That doesn't mean you need to stay till midnight. I'm just saying I'll be broadcasting until then. So I'm getting a weird echo in my headphones, so forgive me if I get confused. I don't think the audio is echoing. I think it's just me.
I've just paused the stream because I was hearing two different feeds.
Yeah, that's probably coming from the fact that you're in Discord. So you're hearing me talk in Discord and in Twitch. And I don't really know how to... I'm not super technical. Well, I mean, I'm pretty technically minded, but I don't really know all the stuff about Twitch and...
My technicalities are very specialized and are not this stuff. Unless you've got an LCMS or GCMS you want me to troubleshoot, I'm no good.
No worries. All right, we're gonna...
And to be honest, I haven't done that for half a decade now. Now I cut meat and run games.
Wonderful.
Now I cut meat and run games. I have a job where I just think about D&D all day.
Yeah.
Which is why your offer of inviting more professional games masters into your world was so intriguing, because I'm a professional games master now, and I like to say mercenary.
Wonderful.
Dice for hire.
Wonderful, I love it. Yeah, like a manual job is nice in that way. It's like you can just kind of let your mind wander, you know.
They keep hinting about me being the manager in the department, and I'm like, no, you don't pay me. You don't pay your managers enough for me to want to think about it.
So I'm going to click randomize, and what I did, this is the same thing I did last time. So whoever is first is the winner. We're raffling the same. Hold on, let me see what I got left. Make sure I've got the same ones. So Dragon Magazine number 308, 306, 304. Okay, 302. This one's a little bit different. All right, so 302, 304, 306, 308. Brand new, more or less. They should have everything, all the cards, all the inserts, and they should all be in perfect condition. Once again, just to reiterate, I'm only asking that you pay shipping, but otherwise, completely free. So, boom. Alisadra is the winner of those 4 Dragon magazines. Alright, congratulations, Alisadra. And I will send you a DM/whisper in a few minutes here. And in the meantime, let me jump into... the realm of Caesarea. So this is the world. This is what I have created, and we took a hiatus for the last about 6 months or so. So it was a time that I took to work on this book quite a bit, and again, like I said before, I unfortunately chose to lean mostly into mechanics for the past 2 months, but there was some lore worked on as well, so it's not a total bust. And a lot of the ideas and the philosophy behind what I was doing with those mechanics, I can still take that and do that with whatever it is, you know, going forward. So, and again, to reiterate, and I don't want to be a broken record, but I should keep saying it. Like, first of all, I don't judge anybody else for whatever decision you might make, boycott or not. It's fine. Keep playing D&D. Don't keep playing D&D. It's fine. I'm just saying kind of what I need to say, I guess. But don't misconstrue that to mean I expect other people to feel that way or think that way. So the other DMs that have joined us, if they're going to run games, are completely welcome to run D&D 5e. So, and I've got quite a few compendiums that I can transfer to another account, but I can set up a game and we can, I can set you as the game master and you can use those compendiums in that way. So I was starting to write Lucky Streak. I got the skeleton of it basically wrote, and then the world caught on fire. So let's see here. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm kind of probably going to fumble around for a minute before I find what I'm looking for.
We can help with that. No dead air on this stream.
Thank you.
I'm very interested in exploring a new world. As I understand it, this is going to be a continuously existing world for players to bring their characters to and go from both one-shots to mini campaigns to longer overarching plot threads that might spread across several GM's games in this world that you've created.
Yeah.
So it's just a West Marches campaign.
That's what I've heard. I'm actually not very I'm not very familiar with West Marches. It sounds super cool, but I've just kind of like superficially skimmed it. It looks cool, but yeah, it sounds like about what I'm doing starting this year. That was kind of what I was going for. Something where my players can bring their characters from one DM to another, hopefully, and different DMs will be able to offer different time slots as well as different ways of DMing. Some people don't gel so well with me. They might like you a lot better or might like Joe a lot better, that kind of stuff. And so I've got, like I said, these compendiums here, the ones that are green, are the ones that I've purchased. And they're really helpful to have. They really help, like, speed things up. Like, you don't have to type everything in manually and stuff. You can just drag and drop or use the Character Mancer. And the Character Mancer is, as far as I know, like the D&D 5e character sheet on Roll20 is the only one like that. There is not another one that I'm aware of that works that way. And it does so much for you. Whereas other character sheets, yeah, so
I feel like such a grognard every time this comes up, because some of my players love macros, and I always do whatever I can to enable them, but I don't use any myself. Everything is still on pen and paper. I'm in my early 30s. I'm not like some long grey beard. My beard is still black, and red and ginger. But
yeah.
I'm not stuck in my ways. But I look down and my feet are in cement.
The fifth edition character sheet is really nice about that. It's really user friendly, player friendly. The Pathfinder second edition sheet is good. I mean, it's great, and it does work with the compendiums in the sense that you can like drag and drop your equipment, your feats, and stuff like that. But it's still unlike the fifth edition sheet. These are all just like holders of information. They don't really do any calculating to say that your level changes all this and your strength changes all this. And a lot of the other character sheets are like that. It's just places to hold text. My daughter just came down here. She's trying to say hi. Oh, there she.
Oh, also, Daddy.
What?
I know Mojang Prof. I just had a thing because I really like Minecraft, but I was watching a video where someone was playing with it, and it was with mods, but really what I'm asking is I'm pretty sure Mojang has a Discord server, and if they do, is it possible to like get on it or not?
Oh, well, you would have to have a Discord account, and we're not going to quite do that yet because Discord can be
I'm
not so good
asking
for
you
kids.
to do it.
Oh, I could check it out at another time when I'm not streaming and stuff. We could go
Okay.
take a look.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, you're welcome.
All you have to do is ask Mojang to add dragons and tell them that I wanted it. Say
Okay.
that your daughter wanted it.
Cool. All right. That was my daughter. She'll be popping in periodically. So, yeah, I was looking at the Rifts character sheet as well, and this is the Palladium system Rifts character sheet, and it's, like I said, same thing. These are all just placeholders of values. They don't really they don't really calculate anything. They just hold a value. So.
So I understand Foundry has a very good Pathfinder 2e integration.
That is my understanding as well, and this could be an opportunity for not only just to really redefine the game and we want to play. We can also, we don't have to be married to Roll20 anymore because most of the money that I sunk into it was for 5th edition compendiums. So.
Do you have a Start Playing Games account?
Yes, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I have it.
If you've ever run a game through that and got paid, there is an option now for you to receive on Roll20 the Pathfinder compendium if you run a game in their Pathfinder weekend. So I will be running a free one-shot. I'm going to take one of my 5th edition one-shots and try and make it in Pathfinder to run for this event.
It's supposed to be pretty straightforward once you kind of get the hang of it. So it's, and I played Pathfinder 2nd edition I played it for about 6 months. I played Pathfinder 1st edition for a few years. And 1st edition is, I liked it better. It was funner for me. And it's kind of, I got my head around it more easily, but the whole thing, like if you start getting outside of core, it starts to break. It especially starts to like stress under its own weight as you get past level 12, and it gets really unwieldy.
I found 1st edition. I have played 1st edition Pathfinder without realizing it. So I just sat down with some friends to play D&D, and like.
Right.
Come to level up time, they pass me the Pathfinder book, and I'm like, oh, I've been playing Pathfinder the whole time?
Right.
But to me, Pathfinder and 3.5 were the same. And then I played some 2nd edition, and
as you get past,
I agree about the weight
12.
of it. It was fun. It was for me, it felt very fun, crunchy D&D. It feels like Dungeons and Dragons. Whereas other systems, I see Zweihander mentioned as well. Warhammer was my gateway drug, so Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is an old friend to me. Zweihander is an adaptation of that. And that feels very different as a game.
Yeah.
Whereas...
very much going for something different than a role-playing game.
Yeah, I have a group who have played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay with me and Call of Cthulhu with me, and they said that both of them felt like depowerment games.
Call of Cthulhu is absolutely that. It's like Call of Cthulhu is like the story of how your character died or went insane.
See, and that's never... well, my parties have all lost a character or two, but when I've played Call of Cthulhu, they've usually survived. When I have never played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay that has not ended in a TPK.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's, you know, Warhammer, they're going for gritty.
I mean, my greatest achievement as a game master for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, I adapted the 1st edition Trouble in Kislev adventure, and the very first mission, the baby mission in that, involves 4 beastmen, a chaos warrior, and a portal. So it's a really hard mission that needs stealthing, and my players did it loud and noisy, and only survived because they decided, hey, let's challenge a chaos warrior to a one-on-one fight. And so they end up seeing the chaos warrior in heavy armor. They're like, and let's do it naked. So they end up fighting a chaos warrior naked on top of a portal. And when they start losing, all their friends get involved. So the chaos warrior opens the portal, and so that's how my party ended up TPKing, by riding a juggernaut of Khorne back through the portal straight to the Chaos Wastes.
Right. Oh boy.
That's the greatest achievement I've had in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
There is a degree of that DNA in Caesarea, but it was really blatant in the early years, like in the 90s and stuff, and I've tried to kind of not lean on that so much and move away from it to a degree, but you'll still see some of that. I think there's still...
I think some of that is important for a West Marches game, because in a West game there's enough players that they can't all be the chosen ones.
Yeah. You just can't all be the main character. Sometimes you have to be the guy who sacrificed himself to, you know.
Welshie, no!
Okay, 1 second here while I get this. I don't want to lose track of who won what.
So, my talks about Warhammer as an extending TPK storyline rather than a natural one. And one of the things I've learned playing different systems is that it was hard for me to let go of the D&D plot flow, where people move from adventure to adventure. And then I started playing... I come from a wargaming background, so Necromunda, Mordheim, Inquisitor, Battlefleet Gothic, all these specialist games. Inquisitor is a narrative game, and then Dark Heresy became that tabletop roleplay game, and they all have that same D&D plot flow of moving through steadily, linearly through time and taking actions, whereas lots more games are really good, but I had to let go of that flow, in particular Wrath and Glory, which is from, I keep saying Cubicle 9 and Cubicle 7, and I don't know which one's the right one. But that game worked really well as soon as I realized it wasn't a war game, it was a comic book.
Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense. The Inquisitor game too was something I really regretted not jumping into. I was kind of new to Games Workshop. I had been into it for a couple years, but I wasn't really totally familiar with how they do things, and it just didn't cross my mind that they'd kill it off within like 1 or 2 years or however long it was. And I kept seeing it, but of course D&D was always my priority, and I was like, oh, I want some of that Inquisitor stuff. It looks great, but I got to.
So I placed at the 3rd Inquisitor Grand Tournament in 2012, and we got John Blanche that year to judge the painting competition, which was nuts because we didn't book him or anything. He was just at Warhammer World, and he showed up, and I literally saw him looking at our figures and went, hey, would you like to learn more about Inquisitor? Like, we're a specialist game. We're trying to keep it alive. And he pulled out his wallet and pulled out from it a battered, unlaminated card that said "Artist John Blanche." And I was like, giving John Blanche a pamphlet with his own stolen art printed in it.
Wow.
And he was kind enough to judge our painting competition. And I got published in Fanatic when the first issue Fanatic moved online. They published the rules me and a friend wrote for Inquisitor. So if you ever want to play Inquisitor, I'll build Inquisitor on Roll20 and run it for you and however many of your friends you want at the table.
Yeah, we can try whatever pretty much in the short term. Like it's all up in the air in the short term. I don't have any particular.
I mean, I'm not promising dates. I've no idea when we'd be able to.
Right.
But it's something I have always wanted to do, but no one's been interested. I try and tell them, hey, there's a D100 system that's even crunchier than Dark Heresy.
I didn't look at the chat for a few minutes because I'm looking at a million different windows, but there was a question in here that I noticed, and I think I lost track of it. Where did I? What kind of rule set are we looking towards? And the answer to that is I don't really know quite yet. Like in the long term, what I intend to do at this point is just write my own game, and that's the long and the short of it. Is just write the game I want to play instead of trying to modify others, and putting players on unfamiliar footing where they don't know where they stand and stuff because I've house ruled it so much and that kind of good stuff. And my the screen is doing fun stuff. It's doing the infinity mirror thing. But anyway, the idea is in the long term just to make the game I want to make, and but in the short term, no idea at all. And the other DMs might have their own ideas about what they want to do, and that's cool. They can do whatever they want. It's pretty much their prerogative. That's kind of what I was going for. I want everybody to be able to just, within my world, do whatever they want. So, and I would be providing, this was the plan before the whole hurricane of Dookie. It was going to be other DMs. I would be feeding them modules like 1-shots, 2-shots, 3-shots. The players could move from one DM to another. So that kind of stuff. Almost like organized play, but not. So that was sort of the idea. Now I don't know. But the main thing going forward in the long term, like I said, is it'll just be something custom, something that I'm making. So I didn't necessarily plan to publish anything per se, but I really wanted it to be publishable. I wanted it to be legally kosher and stuff. But it's not going to be. I had OpenGL 1.0a on the book as being the license that I agreed to, and I had a lot of the SRD in it, and and then last week happened. So I don't know. In the short term, anything goes. Pretty much anything goes. And my chat paused. Got a bunch of new messages. TPK feels nowhere like BS. Cool. All right. Oh, somebody was here from my in-person group from years ago. You mentioned Simon and Trumpy. Mark Trumpy. Joe Smith. Okay, you were going to play a barbarian. It was 2000. It was 23 years ago. You were going to play a barbarian, I think. You were into that the Warhammer army, the Wolves army. What is it? The Grey Wolves?
Space Wolves.
Space Wolves. Thank you. That I think is who I am talking to. Joe Smith, something something. He just mentioned names from my in-person game from years and years ago. Oh, it's Nathan. Okay. No, it's not Joe Smith. There was a Joe Smith. This is Nathan. Okay. Cool. But yeah, I don't want to. Yes, there's DM fiat. You know. Yes, it's my game, but I also don't want to just totally yank the rug out from everybody's, footing, because you'll lose the trust of the players.
I mean, it's kind of related to the concept of having player characters become NPCs in your world, and then having that player keep running them for you. Except you're the one running all those NPCs for the DMs who are running the games, which is kind of useful to have the plot and the world moved forward, allowing you to focus on the lesser stuff. At least for me, because I'm already running 3 multiple homebrew worlds separately. So if I want to run more games, having someone else keep track of that stuff is going to be good.
Right. That's a feature. There was also a campaign that we did. This was the only campaign that ran all the way through to completion that we did online. You can see it on my YouTube channel. Which, the end of it, the world shattered. And I didn't actually put that as, like, canon. But maybe I could do that. So we do what was previously known as Spelljammer quite a lot. We won't be doing Spelljammer anymore, but the outer space aspect of it is not going away at all. Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry. Go.
This is just a chart of the immediate star system. This pretty much goes through the planets. Tarsus is a planet that is active. The others really don't have any inhabitants, but Tarsus does. It's as written right now, probably going to change, but as written right now, it's full of drow, beholders, illithid, mind flayers. And that looks like this. We played another campaign. Well, we played a few campaigns. The one that did complete ended up out in space for a while and then came back. But yeah, we played a few campaigns that left the world, and that's pretty normal in my world. Is starfaring, spacefaring is pretty normal, relatively speaking. I'm not saying the average Joe is going to outer space for his janitorial job.
Would you say the average Joe knows about it though? Like,
yes.
do you, if you live in a city, you'll have seen a Spelljammer arrive and a Spelljammer leave?
Probably yes. You probably have. If you've got a basic education, you probably are aware that you're like on a spherical planet. You're aware that the stars are very far away. Nobody thinks that they're like surrounded by a shell of stars or anything like that. Nobody thinks that everything that happens is the gods doing. They play a big role, but it's not like they just assume that everything is the gods. So it's a little more generally educated than what you might expect from a medieval type of, faux medieval kind of setting.
Are they in medieval stasis, or are they on the cusp of an industrial revolution?
No, they're in pretty much like medieval, late medieval, not quite the Renaissance yet, but getting close. But the education level overall is much higher. Among other things, there's like global travel is common and fast. So there's a lot of infrastructure things that that are done with magic and so on. I'm trying to figure out where my must be in here. There's an image I'm looking for. I think this is it. This is probably the most recent one.
So I'm very fond of Spelljammer. I've been running a second edition campaign since before the 5th edition was announced, but not long before. So I got to tell my players, like, you guys, we get to be old school. We're still running with Crystal
Nice.
Sphinx. We're running the old way. I of course completely ripped off the original 2e setting, but only in ways that I wanted, and added a whole new section to the setting. So I have something called the Great Beholder War.
Yeah.
I can definitely see myself bringing players into this world from my Spelljammer campaigns.
Yeah, that should be considered completely within the realms of canon. It's completely like within bounds. So we had a number of different campaigns over the years. This was. Let me flatten this real quick so I can. I should have opened the JPEG to begin with, not this. This was like evolved over time. We've done a lot of campaigns in this world. Some of which completed, some of which did not, because that's how it goes. So, when I started, we were in high school, and this was the area that the whole thing started in. This is the Dwarven Empire, and then this part here is the Anvil Mountains. I'll tell you some stuff about these, but we're just kind of looking at this as a whole. The first world map was about like this, give or take. So, and then there was a Chaos Wastes down here. It's not there officially anymore, but it was. The first one shot, maybe two shot, I wasn't sure yet, that we were going to do was going to take place on these tropical islands here. And with transportation for these series of adventures, we're not going to like really worry about we're just going to hand wave it because, like I said, fast global travel is common enough that we can just say you're there, don't worry about it. But the PCs would have gotten picked up by, you know, a ship that had been commissioned to pick them up and take them from wherever to where they need to be. So they get there, and we can talk more about that later. So this is kind of what evolved. You've got essentially a composite of Europe and England. Kiriska is a world, a realm of warring baronies and kingdoms and so on. The country borders are shifting all the time in Kiriska, so they don't really what's the word I'm looking for? You can
Unify?
pretty much just do whatever you want with those.
Holy Roman Empire to the max.
What was the question?
Oh, from the sound of it, it sounds like the Holy Roman Empire on steroids.
Right. It's got the feeling of that Western tradition that started with Rome and then spread, and then after they were um, after they were overthrown by the Gauls, those same philosophies were baked into, you know, France, um, England, you know, and so all that stuff just kind of spread throughout here. So, and then this part is a huge undead forest that separates the north from the south as far as land travel goes. You can, of course, sail around it or fly over it, but you can't really walk through it. This is Buanga Jungle among some different cities and so on, and it's pretty much based after Maya, you know, the Mayan Mesoamerican traditions. Al Kharaya Khan is pretty much a composite of the Middle East, more or less. Iraq, Iran, Temec is more or less a composite of Africa. This is like quick nutshell stuff here. Nolan is, for some unknown reason, there is a larger than normal concentration of old world technology in Nolan, and there seems to have been some increased traffic, some increased activity from the ancients throughout that land. So, and all this is shattered from what it had been. The gods hit the world with a lightning bolt out of anger, and so all the continents shattered and drifted apart. The entire planet, all planets have a wobble as they orbit through space. The wobble was significantly increased by the lightning bolt, so you get some weird kind of like weather patterns. You know, you'll get like the normal. You know, there'll be cold in the polar regions, and it'll be hotter around the equator, but there's like a 7-year cycle of quite a bit more variance than what you'd expect. So there's a lot there to play with as well. So Xinjiao, pretty much a composite of China, and this is pretty much Japan. Now, Sorvetstedstad might be kind of fun for Savage Worlds. This is a land that never really recovered from the Dark Times, so it's still overrun by tribes of savage giants and dwarfs, kind of modeled after Norse and Asgardian traditions. This is not a place you really want to hang out. Caramanduria is more or less a composite of Australia, and it has like some of the, like, it's got the porter cities, it's got some of the sophistication, but by and large Caramanduria did not recover as well from the Dark Times as most of the rest of the world did. And it kind of is like it's like a, you know, faux medieval fantasy Mad Max, with a little dash of Dark Sun and a little dash of a few other things here and there. Like, if anyone's ever seen, there was this film with Guy Pearce, I can't think of what it's called, The Rover, I think it was. I thought that was really good. Everything Guy Pearce does is pretty good to me, but that was pretty good. So, and last but not least, Voria is more or less kind of a Eastern European, especially emphasizing Russia. So, that's a very quick nutshell tour. And for the book, I went through and I stripped out a lot of the mechanical stuff, a lot of the different house rules and so on. The lore can all stay, of course. The basic, yeah, the basic lore. I start with this is like the gods welcome you, and like you're being spoken to by the gods. And she is the ultimate, like, the father god kind of a person. That's not a, like, playable thing. If you're a cleric, you can, I mean, you can follow she, but you won't get any cleric stuff for doing that. But he is the creator, he or it. I usually refer to him as it. So she is the creator. Um, he has this dilemma that she's children throughout eternity has been engaged in this endless, like, competition, war, bickering, strife, and there's no resolution to this. It just goes on and on. And so she forged Caesarea as the last of the worlds, and it's intended to be like the paragon, the penultimate world of perfection. He forced all the gods, all of his children, into an agreement to keep their hands off of it. They can't physically come to the world. They can come to as far as the atmosphere, but they cannot come down to the world. And this was started as a good idea and essentially ended up as being a really just turned into a big mess, more or less. The sun actually started out blue, and its shell got cracked, and it shattered and strewed around the universe, and inside was a yellow sun. Um, yeah, the Chaos Age, or the Dark Times, in other words, uh, was a time when there were these beasts and like goblins, dragons, and orcs and so on appearing. The duration of this era is unknown. The history before it started is known somewhat. They know what they've kind of pieced together, and then the history after it ended is pretty well known, but this period of time is pretty mysterious. So one of the big things about this world is the Bloodstones, which is like an embodiment of the physical, uh, psychic, magical fabric of reality, kind of like infused into these stones. Um, these threads of raw reality have made Caesarea the target of the schemes of many power-hungry individuals, including my own children. This is again she talking. Um, so they were bound to a treaty to not intervene, but there were like God of Deception found ways around that by channeling his existence into a different era. Um, and there's more on that later. The god of deception and the god of evil end up dying. There's intended to be mostly morally neutral gods on this particular setting. And then Caladorn is a character that is the god of time, and so he has an introduction where he welcomes you to the world. Bloodstones, each of the 9 constituent components, I have not worked out the other 2. I've got some notes on them, but the 9 forces composing the universe: chaos, time, magic, sun, void, evolution, thought. I think one of those is going to end up being spirit or soul, concentrated into stones, and it's going to be kind of taking the place of the schools of magic when I get to that. They're embodiment of the forces that drive the universe and empower everything, especially magic. They all have certain traits. They all give off certain energy. Their fabric is very much intertwined with all the omnipotence of every universe. And these probably exist everywhere in the multiverse, but they're not necessarily known. But the inhabitants of Caesarea definitely know about it. And you 100% cannot utilize these stones directly in any way like you would pick up a normal magic item and use it. You can't do that with these. So the gods can sometimes do it, but more often than not, they're going to end up suffering some ill effect from it. But it's most likely for a mortal to probably just explode if they, try to come into actual contact with it. And then it goes on to talk about the different things. These images, by the way, these are AI-generated images. I had things I had found on the internet up until mid to late last year, and then I took all those out so that I could not be violating any copyrights in that way. So, time stones are, of course, kind of control is the wrong word. They don't control the flow of time exactly. It's more like they are the flow of time. So we had a campaign where somebody bumped into one of these, and then we did Groundhog's Day for a few sessions. Changing the past might put you at an earlier point in the river. The river will just flow around the rock and find its level. Manipulating time is dangerous, but the cosmos is more resilient than you might think.
I have had some very fun time games. I'm yet to run a good one messing with time, but I've been a player in a few. I must dash. I just wanted to leave my favorite quote so far from your book, which I'm enjoying greatly. Magic as we know it today emerged from the darkness, and psionics were abolished with seething hatred and loathing.
Oh yeah.
That's a killer line right there.
I got to try to get that in there somewhere. Mostly just nobody plays psionicists for obvious reasons. But I figure there should be some kind of class where you can use those psychic energies and maybe conceal them or whatever. But also, again, the future, long-term future.
Well, I look forward to catching Can I watch the Twitch later? I don't really understand Twitch. Do you have can I go back and watch it later? Or is it only live? But
and I'll post this. I always post these.
I'll be reading the book with great interest.
Sure. Yeah, and I always post these as YouTube videos as well.
Excellent.
So, actually, real quick before I continue, now might be a good time to fish for some more activity, like a turd. Let me go to my channel. There we go. All right, let's do this. I've got 13 subscribers. Yeah. Up from 9, by the way. Very happy about that.
Well, let me do a Gandalf and get you off unlucky 13.
Okay, let's go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and I'll be looking to hit 20 subscribers, and we'll do another raffle.
So, unfortunately, I will not be able to enter your raffle because I live in a designated and remote location.
I gotcha.
So, shipping here is too expensive.
Is it England or Australia where you're coming from?
I'm actually in Canada.
Oh, Canada. Okay, but very remote.
It's 8 hours to the mainland.
Okay. Gotcha. I've always been kind of curious about like way up north Canada, up in the tundra, the very wild, untamed.
So I
land.
can see Alaska, but fortunately, I'm on the coast. So even though the mainland still has snow, it's actually pretty much exactly like England. Is your YouTube channel Thorin Teague?
That's my personal YouTube channel, which is, feel free to subscribe to that too. But the one I'm trying to direct you to is DM Thor.
Okay.
All right, 14. Woohoo!
There we go. Done the Gandalf.
Now, Chaos Stones are going to be. This is like the warp coming out of another dimension and hitting the material world that it was never meant to touch.
I knew a Skaven player who brought green jelly babies to use as warp stones at the table.
Yeah, I know a few players who would use like M&Ms and gummy candy and stuff. After they defeat the goblin, they eat it.
I now realize I need to get red M&Ms and put them into health potion bottles.
They do. I've heard of DMs like they have like a bottle of marbles or whatever it is, and they'll like that's your hit points. So you pull them out a little bit at a time. You don't get an exact number, but you get a feeling for where your hit points are at, which is kind of.
Oh, that could be brutal. I'm just imagining. I'm stealing lab equipment for this, and I'm just imagining everyone with a beaker in front of them filled with the exact number of little glass red beads. I have little glass green beads I give out for warp tokens, and I have bronze coins I give out for inspiration. But we're getting away from the topic of your wonderful world, which I shall look forward to reading more of. I will see you on the Discord.
Right on, cool. We can do a raffle real quick. Well, 5 more subscribers, and we'll do another raffle. So, sounds like you're going to head out, and I will be on Discord and Twitch and all that good stuff, so keep in touch. Come on back tomorrow night if you want to. You don't really need to, but whatever you think. So, you'll find on this channel a lot of previous sessions. The most recent one is from 5 months ago, and I can show you real quick, not to hold you up, but if you didn't already leave. Yeah, he might have already left. Search for the Shattered Sword is the one that actually ended. It got all the way to the end. A lot of these others ended too, but they didn't. They were like shorter. They weren't like a level 1 to 20 campaign. Search for the Shattered Sword was. So it does skip an episode here and there, but it gets all the way to the end. So here's Adric. I haven't heard from him. Otten has other stuff going on right now. You know, life, all that good stuff. I think Adric has life going on too. Dogs, I think, is coming back when he gets the chance. So we'll see. That might happen tomorrow. I don't know yet. Or we could get it going tonight. So these are the bloodstones, continuing. The sunstones are like there was a shell over the sun, and the dwarven god of the forge cracked it open, and the shell was shattered and strewn around space. So that has particular aspects to it as well. These are all going to have a direct effect on magic and spellcasters. Void stones give us gravity, black holes, tension, the attractive force between bodies. They bring cohesion and tension to the universe. They're the glue of the prime material plane, which I better change that. The glue of the material universe sounds good. Void stones are typically black holes and cannot be approached. These will be the singularity at the center of a black hole. Evolution stones, pretty much, I'll put this into a nutshell for you.
Always. And then they deliver it right to your door.
After Advil.
Feeling better?
On top of the world.
So, in a nutshell. Millions of years ago, these artifacts were placed on certain planets by an unknown entity, along with another placed on any orbiting moons, seeking out certain forms of life, such as primates, encouraging them telepathically to engage in certain activities, like taking a small piece of string, tying a small piece of string, picking up a stone and throwing it to hit a target, making sounds with their voices, with their mouths. As epochs pass, these species may evolve into spacefaring capabilities. As such, they are likely to find the stone on the moon nearby, which then sets off a beacon, directing them to another planet further out in their own system. Additionally, this alerts the Ozimar of when a species has achieved spacefaring. Up here it says an unknown entity, and then it says it's Ozimar, because that kind of evolved over, no pun intended, over time. That might have to change. I don't know if that's TSR's property, or sorry, TSR. I don't know if that's WotC's property or not, but that might have to change too. They catalyze change and advancement. They push forth sentience and evolution. They are found on planets, moons, and deep space. Direct contact often results in the absorption of the foolish adventurer's consciousness. She or he will, quote-unquote, live on in the stone, but cease to be what they were in their corporeal form. Evolution stones can also generate stars. Moreover, evolution stones push forward the universe, making it possible for stars to form and die. They make it possible for all manner of beast and man to walk and evolve on various planets. They are a catalyst and energy that drives all things to move and change. As such, they have an aspect of entropy which sets the universe in motion and moves things forward. History. Days long gone, Caesarea is created. Before time had measurement, there was a void, a nothingness that enveloped the prime material plane. She took it upon himself to create something from the nothingness. It forged world after world, creating planets, stars, suns, and other more felt creations to spin through the void. As the Father of Gods continued its process of world creation and turning voids into lush solar systems, there had already begun intense rivalries between its children. They collected followers from their worlds and used them as pawns against their opponents' pawns, often resulting in great wars lasting for decades, centuries, millennia. This process was repeated a billion times over until it was painfully obvious to all participants that it was an endless, sickless stalemate. It was at this point that the Father stepped in and ended this sequence. It first created a paragon of worlds, which was nurtured to the most potential inhabitability which could possibly be attained. It spun the fabric of life and energy into stones and put it at the core of the planet. The gods, each representing their own sphere of influence, were forced into a pact with each other, and she himself, never to meddle directly with Caesarea's affairs. And Caesarea was born. So, 30,000 to 20,000. A species called the Ozimar is born. The how and why of this event is known only to she himself. They are different from their descendants, the elves. They were proficient with spacefaring and colonized worlds in their all journey. Not sure on that name, but we'll see. Throughout the material plane, with their colossal psychic energies, they erected portals as big as planets and gathered fleets to complete their divine task. The devices were vessels powered by thought alone. Meanwhile, Caesarea remained undiscovered. Ages passed this way, and in this time, Ozimar created the species of dwarves, humans, goblins, and true dragons. Massive portals are built in space, too big to exist on land. True dragons were a thing that I haven't used in a while. with the standard D&D dragons being referred to as drakes, and true dragons being something kind of different. So I might lean back into that, or maybe even just take the chromatic and metallic dragons out and there's just dragons. But I don't know yet. We'll see on that one. Negative 20,000 to negative 10,000. These years, by the way, refer to the Dark Times, which is the midpoint of Caesarian history. So 20,000 to 10,000 years before that, Caesarea is discovered. The gods intervene. If the Aasimar subject Caesarea to their experiments, their species will be destroyed. The Aasimar colonize this planet as they did all others against the will of the gods. 10,000 to 5,000 years before the Dark Times. The Aasimar child species have achieved spacefaring in some parts of the universe. Aasimar machines are now believed to be indestructible to the rigors of space travel. 5,000 to 1,000 years before the Dark Times. Aasimar continued their mission of colonization. Meanwhile, they have come to believe that they are now gods and that the true gods are obsolete. 1,000 to 100 years before the Dark Times. Aasimar summon the gods freely to do their bidding. They have lost all regard for the gods designed and now seek to mold the universe in their own image. 100 years before the Dark Times to the beginning of the Dark Times. Again the gods intervene. They tell the Aasimar to leave Caesarea, stop what they're doing, and return to the upper planes to be judged. They refuse, and in return for the gods' relatively hospitable offer, they begin destroying gods. Their portals touched places beyond the universe in a place that we now call the astral plane, where there resided pure paradox entwined with the fabric of non-existence. This incomprehensible place was a necessary waypoint for the Aasimar travel schemes for reasons unknown. At the end of this age, all portals exploded, spewing this substance onto every world they touched. And thus began the Dark Times. Although the timeline before the Dark Times is somewhat well known, and the timeline after is basic elementary school history, this period chooses to remain shrouded in shadow. Its length is unknown, as time was not measured for the duration of this period. The year that it officially ended is 0 PDT, in other words, post-Dark Times. After the explosion, the Chaos Wars ensued, and this was simply and appropriately entitled the Dark Times. New evil creatures were born in massive numbers from the tiny bits of chaos sprinkled about the planet, including orcs, ogres, trolls, as well as other creatures that were hurled forth from the chaos plane, such as elementals, various astral travelers, demons, and other monstrosities that most prefer not knowing about. Chaos bloodstones rained from the sky, and on top of that, the gods shattered the continents with a planetary thunderbolt. See the account of the Chaos Stones. Huge swaths of history were discarded and forgotten. Civilizations fell like leaves to the ground. Billions died. War and destruction reigned. The sky was dark, the gods were gone, and the Aasimar had been reduced to squibbling tribes, and despair set in. At some point, a political war erupted in the Aasimar community, and Aasimar Lucreef, fueled by Chaos Stone, appointed himself overlord and converted many other Aasimar into beings of chaos. The good Aasimar that remained lost their battle. Excuse me. And in their final hour of desperation, cast a powerful cooperative spell to cast Lucreef into the abyss, and rid the world's knowledge of the Aasimar deeds forever. The surviving true gods could then be rediscovered, and their light would turn things around for Caesarea. Magic as we know it today emerged from the darkness, and psionics were abolished with seething hatred and loathing. The gods granted Caesarea serenity from the Aasimar, but no longer from the gods themselves. They now communed freely with the people of Caesarea and granted them magic. She still did not allow them to come to Caesarea in person, though, but myths and legends tell of deific scandals and double-crossing. They say that at some point during the Dark Times, the gods were forced to put their essences into living containers on the face of Caesarea. Many gods were destroyed during this period, and according to legend, some are actually still present. The Caesarea of today, 100 post-Dark Times to 1000 post-Dark Times. This area was categorized as rebirth and rebuild, while most of Caesarea rebounded from the devastation of the Dark Times. There were basic needs to be met, but also the people started to uncover remnants of the old world. What written history and information could be found is highly valuable and sought after by academia and the authorities. Portals linking 13 of Caesarea's major metropoli are found to still be functional or fixable. Once it was determined how to operate them, they could be used to travel to any portal city on the globe. A consortium was formed to manage and protect the portals, the Consortium of Portal Overseers, aka COPO for short. Several spaceports and airports were found, with some ships still functional. Caesarians returned to skyfaring and spacefaring. A network of transoceanic monorails that's not right. A network of transoceanic monorails is discovered, but it's too damaged for it all to be useful. And nobody knows how to fix it yet. Sea travel, as always, remains in vogue. 1000 post-Dark Times to modern day. I might dilate the timeline out further, too, again. The current year, last year we were playing in 1401. I think that was Year of the Dragon, and this year will be 1402, the Year of the Peacock. Invention, engineering, alchemy, and other forms of science are discovered and are beginning to be explored. Crystal towers are erected and networked through the belly of the world, allowing magical communication anywhere on the planet. Magic is infused into ocean-going vessels, allowing them to travel to the opposite side of the world in less than a month and into wild space. Current age and the future. I do not believe the inhabitants of Caesarea, with all their sophistication and learnedness, possess the foresight to know what the future of Caesarea will bring. While many point to a new age of reason and spiritual enlightenment, others whisper of a possible return of the Dark Times. There will be no respite for the inhabitants, as their quest must never end. They are the greatest that mortal flesh can be, and their world is the most hospitable possible on the mortal plane. Their test will be for their own souls and of the souls of all the prime material plane. Check. Okay, I'm still not at 20 subscribers. And activity seems to have ceased for the night. So I think it is time to call it a night. We'll be back next week at this time. Same time, same place. I'll put a little message up. It's not what I meant to do. Eh. I might even be on earlier than 8 p.m. And I'm going to close this. And y'all have a good night.